Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon. Today, the people gathered around Jesus. They were sitting on the west side of Sea of Galilee, on a meadow in a mountain. So they are the people from the west meadow, not east meadow. We are from East Meadow and we are proud of ourselves. To Jesus and for our sake, I will just say that Jesus brought the people and had them reclined on a East Meadow. So we are there and Jesus is with us. What did he do? He did it because he found that they were hungry. But the thing is, considering the postures they were invited, it was apparently a Passover gathering. In Passover, Israelites were supposed to go to Jerusalem, but they are not in Jerusalem, but with Jesus now. That's the whole key point today. Today, I'm going to give you 3 tips about how to handle your problems, your hunger. Jesus noticed that they were all hungry. Of course, spiritually, but to hear the teachings of Jesus, Jesus knew they needed to be fed so that they had more energy to concentrate on the teachings of Jesus. For knowing that Jesus understands their hunger, our hunger, we need to bring our own hunger in front of Him. Here in this gospel, there is a secret behind, and this secret is the key to open why Jesus is there and why the disciples wanted to describe this unbelievable story about with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Jesus fed 5,000 men, considering their wives and children and uncles and aunts. Probably the crowd must have been some 30,000 people, which was somewhat the right amount, right numbers for one tribe. Now Jesus is sitting and feeding them, and the people are hungry and they are being fed. In this Bible, what is secretively hidden is by whom these gifts were presented. That was by a little child, a lad, young man, probably about half size of mine, so it's even shorter. And this presentation by a little boy symbolized that we are hungry, big, but we have nothing to offer. But with 5 barley bread, which was back in Jesus' time only 1/3 of value for wheat bread. So barley bread apparently was the food for the humble people and poor people. Besides this barley bread, there were 2 fishes, small fishes, probably a little bit bigger than my finger. And considering the culture they were in, eating culture they were in, it was a fermented fish. So not grateful, not appreciative. Since the barley bread for the poor was not well seasoned with salt, this fermented fish added up with some salty flavor. So who wants to eat barley bread with fermented bread. Any volunteers? Unless you want to go to a Japanese restaurant. This barley bread, definitely 5 barley breads, represents the food for the hungry. That is the 5 books Torah. So healing is coming from Torah. 2 fishes. This is the secretive words where we need to open the way to be healed with our hunger. In this fish, there are 2 persons secretly hidden. One is Joshua, Yehoshua, the son of fish. Another one is Yeshua, Jesus. Joshua and Jesus, Yehoshua and Yeshua, back in Jesus' time. These 2 names share the same meaning, the man of redeeming, the man who redeems, who delivers. So we need to go back to the original Exodus. This Exodus was initiated by Moses, but the ending was not completed by Moses, but his student, Joshua, Yehoshua, the one who brought the Israelites into the land of Canaan. That was Jehoshua, not Moses. Now Jesus is standing there and feeding the people, and he is the one who is in charge of taking the people to the promised land. From this world, probably to the next world. But apparently, we want more than that. We are hungry for the next world, but we are definitely hungry for the needs and provisions for this world. We are all hungry. Joshua used 3 tips to conquer what is the name for the castle that Joshua wanted to? Jericho. Yeah, Jericho. That just slipped my mind. Yeah. Jericho was a castle, strong forest city. And Joshua did send 2 spies before he wanted to conquer it. That's the first tip. The second tip was the Rahab was welcoming the 2 spies. That's the second. And third and final tip was finally the soldiers, after discover the weak part inside of the castle, Israelites set up the strategy to conquer it. When we handle our own hunger, when we handle the things need to be corrected from our loved ones. Some people might have issues about alcohol and drugs and obsession, or probably personality issues. Whatever we may be in, we all have issues, whether it's existential issues, financial issues, personality issues, or medical issues and relational issues. We all have this hunger. Let's say all these hungers are described in the name desert. That's where their journey started. Israelites started their journey through the desert. And Jesus today, the followers of Jesus who are hungry, they started their journey from the desert, the place where we are. When we handle this, we want to jump right into the issues we all have, and we want to correct it. Drink your coffee, wake up, and face your day. That's what we want to say to our loved ones. Because we all know that myself and your loved ones are struggling in that hunger. But Joshua, in first strategy, he sends 2 spies to delve into what's happening there. That means when we handle our hunger, we want to send the spies before we want to use our own armories. In other words, we want to be very generous and careful, considerate and discreet about presenting our own issues about you. That's the first tip. Me as a clinician, let's say someone is coming saying, Dr. Kim, I have issues about drugs. Oh my God, this kid will be dead due to these addicts. So out of this piteous heart, I want to jump into the issues directly to save the time and to save the money between you and him and me. But that is never working in that way. Exodus took 40 years. Back in Moses' time, lifetime. Everybody's journey, everybody's exodus takes lifetime. Some may not be resolved in this world with their issues. Then we simply have to be humble with that case, that in God's hands, these souls will be cured. We have to accept it. There are things we cannot handle, but we do our best to correct myself for our loved ones and to correct our loved ones for myself. That's why we need to be very discreet and considerate and careful in approaching the issues. The second tip is there is a woman, Rahab, who welcomed the spies sent by Yehoshua, Joshua. And Rahab was the one who knew something was wrong in his people, in her fortitude. She was waiting for the day that this fortitude can be transformed into something more meaningful than constantly being hungry for the power and conquering ambition. She wanted the truthful peace. Rahab, the name itself, is the one who is inviting for that to open up. Her job was a harlot. Prostitute, probably innkeeper, but not in the contemporary sense. The job was needed for every village, every town, every castle. She chose the role to embrace the people so that they can be comforted to open up toward their own issues. So the second tip, Joshua, Yehoshua, and Yeshua, they were giving us is when we deal with these issues, this hunger, we want to be open-minded. In other words, there are always methodologies that have to be befitting in my own favorite perspectives. Things are not in that way. When you want to correct, the first approach you might want to do is instead of this person to be in your way, you better to accept that your methodology is to be in his or her way. Without converting yourself, the healing never takes place. That's what the Rahab is about, and Rahab welcomed the spies. Finally, for 6 days, Israelites, the soldiers, were moving around the fortitude for 6 days without saying anything, in silence. With this patience, on the seventh day, they blow the trumpet. The Bible says the castle was destroyed. They conquered it. This is the key point. Considering the Exodus, then who is the one, who is the general, who is the truthful master that guides this war into the winning game? That is not Moses, that is not Yeshua, Yehoshua, that was Yahweh, God's game. So final methodology is we want to leave our power unto God so that this healing, this cure for the hungry, has to be the cure of God. God has to be in charge. Our Exodus, God has to be in charge. Without God being in charge in our Exodus, no one wins. Today, Jesus is feeding the people, and eventually Jesus is feeding the spiritually hungry people. And his followers learning how to do to fulfill the hunger of the people. That was not by their own methodology, but by the power of God. That's the whole point. When you want to cure your medical issues, your psychological issues, your relational issues, your financial issues, you do not want to make this game under your own rules. Let these games made by God, and God has the winning power. That's what Jesus is talking about. That's why the hungry came to listen to Jesus, and Jesus is always waiting for us.